Góðan daginn.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting us to the International Conference on Poverty, Globalization and Schooling. My name is Anna Katarzyna Woźniczka.
And my name is Hafdis and we both come from the University of Iceland, the Faculty of Education Studies.
And today we are going to present a paper called Non-Stigmatized Images of Immigrant Students During and Post-Research Period, Challenges for the Beginning Researcher.
This research project is conducted in 4 Nordic countries, Iceland, Finland, Sweden and Norway, and at 3 school levels, preschool, compulsory school and upper secondary school. The main objectives of the study is to understand and learn from experiences of immigrant students who have succeeded academically and socially, and especially to explore and understand how social justice is implemented in equitable and successful Nordic school contexts and other learning spaces. The reason for this research is the rapid growth of students with foreign backgrounds in the Nordic countries, and for our particular paper in the Icelandic school that has especially happened the past 2 decades. The impact of this shift is in demography on school environments and educational research. In this paper, we are especially concerned of researchers about the image of participants, particularly immigrant students, and their well-being at all phases of the research. The research questions and objectives are how to empower immigrant children in and through educational research. The key issues that a researcher should bear in mind while preparing, doing, and presenting a research with immigrant students in order to empower them. And in our paper today, we are going to focus on this and how the researcher and the research team is learning how to work with children. There are several strategies that the particular beginning researcher is using from the learning space for inclusion and social justice. And in so doing, there are quite many challenges she has to face, and we will be discussing them today.
Recent research shows that a qualitative inquiry requires from a researcher to constantly deal with the knowledge of self and the others, and with the power as an important ethical issue. This is especially crucial in research with children, immigrant children. Through the act of researching children, a researcher can, rather than empowering them, present them in a way that reproduces suffering and stigmatization. There is also a dangerous tendency to underestimate or prejudge the abilities and concerns of the participants, especially in the context that the researcher is unexperienced in. So a postmodern perspective argues that children should be considered rather as knowledgeable, competent, strong and powerful members of a society. And moreover, children are to be seen as social actors and active participants in the research process, capable of providing information, perspectives and views on their own lives. And finally, research with children should be seen as a pedagogy and a way of researching life, culture and an ethic, a continuous process and a relationship. And one way of empowering children, not only through education but also through educational research, is by noticing and making use of their resources. Rodriguez characterizes resources as a personal strengths and qualities, which emerge from and which shape life experiences. Similarly, Verch considers cultural resources as tools for people to make meaning and act in the world. And further, culture is seen by Gonzalez, Moll and Amanti as funds of knowledge. So in other words, it's a resource to draw upon in the process of learning and the empowering of students.
This research is qualitative and uses many different methods collecting data. In this paper, we are focusing on how a new researcher is working with children the first, how the whole team is working, especially the new researcher. We are using semi-structured interviews with the children, but at the same time also informal discussions, both before and after the interviews, and also just during the time we visit the schools. Using story crafting and observations, and also various artifacts, including students' projects and drawings. In the paper, we are looking at how we use the resources children bring into the research, and also how we use the resources that the researchers bring into the research. Eva, the beginning researcher, is the person we are going to focus on. And Anna, are you going to tell us a little bit about her?
Yes. Eva, as Hafdis mentioned, is a beginning researcher. She is a PhD student at the University of Iceland, and she has joined an already established research team of Learning Spaces for Inclusion and Social Justice project, which has been going for 2 years already. Eva is an immigrant herself, and she has several years of experience of teaching and voluntary work with young and adult immigrants.
During the research project, Eva has faced many challenges. And Anna, are you going to tell us about her challenges and how she responded to some of them?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so as we mentioned before, Eva joined an already established research team, and she did not know much about participants before meeting them, other than their age, nationality, number of years in the Icelandic school system, and the fact that they were chosen by gatekeepers or teachers. The first challenge that Eva encountered while interviewing students was their different level of understanding of questions previously prepared by the research team. Therefore, Eva decided to adjust the questions not only to the age of students, but also to their ability of speaking the language and to their background, which was very diverse. At this point, it was very useful that Eva was herself an immigrant that had a considerably broad practical knowledge of immigrant issues in Iceland, including patterns of migration, situation of refugees, and home language environments of immigrants. In one particular case, a good insight into local news helped Eva to associate the participant with a sensitive story, and in result, to avoid questions that could have been harmful to this particular participant. But soon, Eva noticed that some of the children had difficulties with opening up, even though they could understand questions and the aim of the interview perfectly. Therefore, she decided to introduce a strategy called story crafting, which was developed in Finland and is used especially with younger children or those immigrant students who are still insecure in second language, in order to create a friendly atmosphere and in order to motivate children to open up and tell their own stories in an informal way. Students, in this particular case, were working in pairs, and they were encouraged by Eva to think up and draw, write or tell a story of a girl or a boy of a certain age who moved to Iceland a while ago. So children were asked open questions, including, how does the person like living in Iceland? What does he think of school? How would his perfect day look like? What does he like to do in the free time? Then Eva wrote down the stories exactly the way they were told, and the authors, who were immigrant children, had a chance to reflect on them and make any changes that they wanted. So as a result, children could see Eva's interest in listening to their stories, their own stories, and they opened up and used their own ways of communication to provide information about the imaginary person, a girl or a boy, but at the same time, they revealed their perspectives and views on their own lives. During the process of data analysis, Eva encountered many challenges as well, so she has to culturally validate this phase. And she decided to work with other members of the research team who had various background and experience. Those sessions or meetings that usually happened in a group of up to 4 people included reading over interviews, looking into photos and artwork of students, and watching video recordings. The sessions lasted sometimes for several hours, but it was well invested time. Eva and the team were able to discuss particular situations as well as to clarify and explain language and cultural nuances that happened from time to time, which otherwise could have been left unnoticed. So performing both individual and group analysis helped Eva to locate and make use of students' resources and to reflect on the gathered data.
As you heard, Eva faced many different challenges, but she also responded to them in quite creative ways. And Anna, can you tell us what that was that helped her become a researcher and respond in those different ways?
Well, first of all, she was future-oriented and she had a strong sense of responsibility when it comes to the participants, the immigrant children. She knew that what is most important is their well-being. She was also intuitive, which means being an immigrant, she knew the stories or the situation of immigrant people in Iceland. So she was able to adjust some questions in order not to harm participants. And in this way she was also flexible because she was able to not only adjust particular questions but also methods to the needs of particular children. So something that could start as a structured interview could end as a story crafting, because Eva could notice that some children had problems with opening up, but crafting a story of a different person, a boy or a girl, could help them in opening up and saying about their own views and perspectives. She was also collaborative and able to both ask questions to other team members but also to receive criticism. But she was also critical on her own, not only towards herself, her identity and her participation in this research process, but also to the entire research team. And finally, she was able to bridge own knowledge and experience and build on own resources and resources of participants.
As you can see, there are many different ways that Eva was using to empower children. So can you tell us, Anna, what was it especially that helped her? Mm-hmm. Or what we can learn from her?
Yes. Well, Eva, through this entire process, noticed that there's no one correct or proper way of doing research with children in order to empower them in and through research. She noticed that it's rather an interplay of different factors, and she thinks that it's, for example, a broad knowledge of research and ethical guidelines, but it's also having an experience not only as a researcher but also as a teacher and as an immigrant that can be helpful, and having excellent personal skills, which we've mentioned in the previous slide, but also having a strong sense of responsibility and bearing in mind that it's the well-being of children, of participants that we are doing research with, that should matter most while doing the research. And finally, Eva thinks that it's ability of the researcher to constantly renegotiate and reflect on her role as a researcher in different contexts. So I think that it's an interplay of all those qualities and the ability for a researcher to renegotiate his or her role, no matter whether he is or she is a beginner or an experienced researcher. And those are the keys, possible keys to success.
As you can see, there are many ways that we have to think of as we research with children, especially if we want to use the research to empower them and not only get their story, but also that the children get something out of the research. So our question now is, what can we learn from Eva's story? That's our question to you that we would like to discuss with you. But at the same time, I would like to say thank you very much for your patience.
Ja, tack för att du lyssnade.